our operations manager for the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office, Mr. Ton, who works with me. So for the ones that may not know me, my name is Jens Trainhardt. I'm the Executive Director of the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office. So we work with the 6 member countries, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Thailand, Vietnam, and China, to build capacity, to work with public and private sector, and to um, promote the region as a single tourism destination. Obviously, this is now a little bit different. So when the pandemic started with fairly limited resources, we focused on a few things. Number one is, to kind of give information and resources based on the pandemic, especially what we hear from our governments. So we have a resource page on our website with travel restrictions and policies. We also publish an infographic every 3 to 4 weeks, which just summarizes all the various travel restrictions in the region. And then also, we created a Mekong Tourism Advisory Group to really work with travel professionals, from around the region with various sectors, to kind of have the communication channels open. And some of the METEC members are also on this call today and are also part of the Experience Mekong collection. But as it relates to focus, we decided to really focus on small businesses. And as we had developed the Experience Mekong collection about 3 years ago, we thought this platform could actually be very powerful. It was obviously created first to create a trusted label or trusted seal for travelers that are looking to stay in small businesses that have a social impact. So we curated now for around 300 to 350 businesses. Of these 350 businesses, around 170 we would call active. And active mean they have responded to our surveys or email and updated their contact information. So that's around 50%, which is not bad. Obviously, some may not be open right now, so we have to kind of continue our outreach. But we said, okay, what can we do? So the first thing is we create an online community where now we're starting to have a members meeting. So we had one member meeting, and I think we have our second member meeting next week. This is really to kind of almost create an alliance with these small businesses and see how we together can help these businesses get out of the pandemic or survive the pandemic. And number two, also we created a support page of businesses that sell gift certificates or vouchers or ask for donations to get through this situation. Now what we're starting today is I think somewhat unique, because I haven't seen it globally, is a webinar series where we want to showcase the initiatives and the actions and the learnings of small businesses in the region. So we've invited for the first one 3 speakers, 3 businesses from Thailand, Myanmar, and China to kind of share their learning. So this is not about featuring the businesses per se. So obviously they'll obviously give an intro in terms of what they do and where they are, but it's really focused on what have they done during this pandemic, how have they survived, what are the challenges, what are the learnings, and that is also then for other businesses to learn from. As many of you know, I'm very active with the United Nations World Tourism Organizations, UNWTO. I'm vice chair of the affiliate members. So we're working closely with them also, and they feel that also this platform could help other small businesses in other parts of the world as well. So we're looking to then create a compendium of these action steps and learnings and insights, put them together, and always add, after each webinar, the 3 companies to it, and create some kind of ebook that we want to publish later on. So that's a little bit as an intro and why we're doing it. So today is the first one. It's a bit of a learning experience. And then we're looking also, obviously, from feedback from all of you. What can we do better? How can we actually make this more valuable? So the idea is really to have these 3 speakers and then have a little bit of a discussion as well. The call is recorded, so you can always go back as well, and we'll make the recording available on YouTube and Facebook after the meeting as well. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Ton to moderate the call and introduce our first speaker. Ton?
Hello. Hello, thank you, Jens. Thank you for the introduction. So today I'd like to, first of all, introduce our three speakers. So the first one will be Mr. John Robert from Thailand. Yes, he's on the call already. And then next one will be Mr. Chris Barclay, who owns two properties in Yunnan and Guangxi. He's also on the call here. And the last one will be Ms. T. Darwin, who runs the social enterprise in Myanmar. So with that, I'll start with the first speaker, that is Mrs. John. So before starting with your presentation, let me share your short video to intro your speak today, your talk today. Sure. Did you hear that? Oh. Oh, man. Is that working?
I'll be talking to you in a little bit about the elephants we have in sight, how we have managed to survive, or how we are dealing with the COVID crisis. Give you some ideas of what...
I can't hear the audio, just FYI.
Odd captive elephants through the crisis and the lack of tourism, and then also give you some idea of what I feel might be a best case scenario about how we can move into the future and keep all these elephants fed and healthy. See you very soon.
Okay, please go ahead, Mr. John.
Thank you very much, Don. Good afternoon, everybody. For once in my broadcast life, I think we're all in the same time zone. So thank you very much. And let me quickly share my screen, and hopefully we can start the presentation. Okay, well, so as Jens was saying, can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much. And see the screen. As Jens was saying, we're going to start with the well, primarily an organization for small businesses. So we're starting with the guy who represents a company that has 500 hotels worldwide. But I will talk about my small part of that. In general, my job is director of sustainability and conservation for the whole group. But I started out as director of elephants, and because of COVID, I've kind of come back to doing that. So I also run for them the Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation. And that to me is a small business. Okay, we're a Thai registered foundation, but we run it. The experience there, I think, is the bit that is most applicable to the Experience Mekong collection and all you small sustainable businesses out there. So we're a foundation. We rely on donations. And we run very much as a business. So I'll talk more about the elephants and the Elephant Foundation than I will about minor hotels. So I hope no one from minor minds me doing that. to start off with, I'll talk a little bit about the elephant situation in general during COVID. I know everybody's in pretty much the same boat with zero revenue and zero and big problems and everything else. But the elephant situation is probably a little bit unique. So I thought I'd go very, very briefly through how we felt in Thailand and how COVID's affected the elephants. Thailand has something like 3,800 elephants in captivity. Myanmar something like 6,000, so they weren't as reliant on tourism. But in Thailand, all the elephants pretty much are, or at least 3,000 of them, reliant on tourism for their food every day. In late March, I happened to be in Chiang Mai, and we had, just as COVID was hitting, this was about the 27th of March, the guests who used to come from China had stopped arriving about a month earlier, and foreign guests were just about beginning to dry up. And we managed, as part of another project, to interview camp managers, academics, vets, the Thai Elephant Alliance, who I'll talk a little bit more about later on, and mahouts, to try and see what their thoughts for the future were. And of course, even then, even before the lockdowns, even when people could travel freely within Thailand, everybody was worried. They were thinking, well, they had about 3 months of the best prepared camps had about 3 months worth of finance in the bank. They could keep elephants fed. Elephants cost about $20 a day to feed. They could keep their mahouts somewhat employed or somewhat paid, and were all of them were planning to try and change their business model to attract more and more Thai guests, which was great. The biggest worry of the vets was gastrointestinal problems and the worry that the food might dry up. And so we had that conversation with them. And of course, 3 days later, Thailand locked down completely. And so the dream of even having Thai guests was completely shut out. And then we made press around the world, mainly along the lines that the elephants will starve. We found ourselves in a position as people who care not only for our own elephants or elephants that live with us, but for the whole elephant community, of worrying about feeding 3,000 elephants, which is difficult. It would cost us something like $2.2 million US dollars a month to do. So I considered it impossible. And for a while, I subscribed to the elephants might starve school of thought. But then it dawned on me that elephants have been in captivity in Asia for 4,000 years. The mahouts know how to look after elephants. They were looking after elephants in the wild long before tourism, and they would continue to do so. So what we as a community, or what we as a foundation, decided to concentrate on once we'd had that realization, was, rather than panic about where on earth are we going to get this $2.2 million US dollars a month for all the elephants from, was how to work on veterinary care, how to make sure that if elephants, what we've considered would be inevitable is elephants would change their diets, they would get less food, and therefore we better try and help ramp up the veterinary care in Thailand. And so that's what we started as a foundation to try and concentrate on, as well as looking after all of our other projects. And that was the situation that came to prevail. The private sector, and thank you to everybody who provided me the stats for this last week, actually achieved the impossible. As far as I'm concerned, I said feeding elephants, all those elephants, would be impossible. Two groups, the Thai Elephant Alliance and the Southern Thai Elephant Foundation, actually had the genius idea of persuading the farmers and the suppliers to the hotels and to the tourism industry, people who would otherwise be supplying food to the tourism industry, to actually give them to the elephants instead. And they have raised vast amounts of money, not the $2.2 million US dollars, but they've raised enough to keep a lot of elephants fed, and really have staved off the emergency. So they're two great responses, and they're all made up of private sector. So it's they're small, again, a bit like the EMC, although very, very elephant related. They are small, sustainable businesses. Well, you argue some of them are not so sustainable. They're elephant tourism businesses, and they clubbed together. They came for an alliance and really helped each other out with the key to solve this key problem. Other players like Trunk Travel and other small travel agents. I don't know if Trunk Travel or EMC. I think they certainly send guests to a few. of the businesses set about trying to also raise money for the elephant camps that they supported, and they came up with an idea called Date with an Elephant, where you could pay for a private Zoom session with an elephant and a mahout, and they would beam the elephant to you across the world, wherever you may be, and then the money that you would pay for that private Zoom session would go towards the upkeep of that elephant. So there were all sorts of good ideas out there, and very, very effective coming from the private sector. The government also responded very strongly. In neither particular order, the Chiang Mai University for the Center of Elephant and Wildlife Research and the National Elephant Institute, the TECC in Lampang. They responded. They are vets by nature. Well, they're vets for the most part, and so they responded by having seen that the the private sector were managing to find the food. They set about providing veterinary care for all of these elephants as the change of diets went through. We ourselves actually sent some money down to help them out and everything else. So they really have worked very hard, and the whole community of I guess the reason to bring this up is that the next few slides are about what we did. We couldn't have done that without the safety net of we didn't actually need to turn to Thai Elephant Alliance for help, but we have turned to the government for help. And the Thai government came up with this safety net that allowed the majority of elephants to stay fed and have access to veterinary care, which is the basic needs. What did we do? So who are we to start with, I guess, is the biggest question. We are talking with my golden a relatively small elephant foundation based in far north Thailand, based at the Amantara Golden Triangle, which is where I'm sitting now. And in normal circumstances, we are funded by minor hotels, who are the previously mentioned 500 hotels around the world, and donations from guests from those hotels. And it's all set up to be a philanthropic deal to help elephants that are not living with us. And to make sure that the effect of we have elephants on site the guests can meet, but our effect goes beyond that. And in the very beginning, a lot of the people I deal with spoke to me and said, well, you're fine because you're part of Minor, because there will always be money. Minor's this massive conglomerate that does own all these hotels around the world. We have food groups, we have all sorts of things going on. And I quite had to argue several times actually that we're probably worse off than a normal business, because at least if you are a small business owner, not that you'd want to, and I hope nobody has had to, you can mortgage off your house, or you can do other things to keep your business going. I work for a company that was going along very, very smoothly in January. We toasted at New Year. We thought everything was wonderful, as I'm sure everybody else was, and then suddenly had 500 business units just switch off overnight, and all, as you all know, because you all own businesses, all costing a lot of money just to keep there, look after your staff, look after the buildings, look after everything else. So I determined very early on that I wasn't going to wait for Minor. I saw their business situation. Of course, my normal job is wider than just the elephants, so I saw what was going on. I saw our business situation, I should say. I still work for them. That I wasn't going to be able to ask them for money, and I had to find some other way to keep not only the 20 elephants that we had on site fed and the mahouts paid, that we took in actually 3 other elephants who were out of work. We have taken in 3 other elephants who were out of work due to COVID, because their camps couldn't look after them. But we also had other projects around, which I considered all of them essential, and they're all set up to be 20-year projects that would go backwards if we weren't funding them. We have mobile clinics in Surin, 2 wild elephant projects in Thailand, our own concession with ranges for elephants and all sorts of other species in Cambodia, English teachers in the Mahout's home village, and all sorts of other things. So it's about the foundation usually disperses in a normal year somewhere around 11 to 12 million baht, which we, as I say, generally raise from minor hotels and also from guest donations. And 0 guests equals 0 revenue for minor, and also, which is picking up now, I will get to that in the end, but also 0 donations from guests. So what could we do? Well, the first thing I decided, or I just thought, was we had to get the word out. We have to talk about what we're doing. And how do we do that? Now, I don't know if it's the right way. I don't know if I choose to do it the same way again, but it seems to work very well, is Facebook live streams. Basically, Facebook live streams, everybody, it turned out most of my big donors are not on Facebook, but a lot of almost everybody around the world's on Facebook. It's free to use. You have the tech with you in your mobile phone. We have good mobile coverage everywhere we are, which is also very useful. The audience is potentially unlimited, and what I decided to do, I didn't run it past the marketing team. I didn't run it past anybody. I just thought, well, we'll go ahead and do this. We'll be honest. We'll be unbranded. We won't go out there as Anantara. We won't go out there as even really the Golden Triangle Asian Elephant Foundation. It will just be me, and the elephants always do have their relaxation time during the day. It'll just be me with the camera out there talking about elephants. And I can't read this now, but yes, we had, it's grown and grown and grown. It started off fairly slowly, but we do have a very, very loyal audience of people who maybe 40 or 50 people who tune in every day, every session to come and do it, and we have great conversations, and we really actually, a lot of them are locked down in their homes, so they're really appreciating what we do. But last week we got something like 400,000 views. Unfortunately, as the number of viewers took off, the donations dropped out. We don't ask for any money, but at the end I just have a little plea and just say, look, well, this is what we're doing. We're doing it for free, and for the elephants, and to help other people, to help you guys see elephants who wouldn't normally be able to. And we know you can't travel even if you wanted to, but if you did feel that you could donate, you can. And as it's got more and more popular, unfortunately, I think we've got a little bit older, and the donations have dropped out. But I think that's something that really people can try easily. If you keep it honest, unbranded, go out there regularly and talk about what's unique about what you do. And for us, it's having 200 acres with elephants that are roaming around on it, and that we have a history with, that we know and we can talk about. Further, we had to look and say, what else do we have that's unique? And again, every one of you in the Experience Mekong collection, if you've been around a while, will have this. And this is, we've been for years working with experts and friends and scientists and various different projects. We've been going for about Hotel's been going for 17 years. The foundation's been going for 15 years. We have these experts out there who we've helped with their research. We've helped with them write their books. We've had long boozy evenings with them. We've done all sorts of other things to help them get close to elephants. So we called on them, and actually during this lockdown, we've had Shani's paper came out in a peer-reviewed paper. So we thought, well, why not just do a lecture with her, and we'll broadcast it to the Asian Elephant Specialist Group of IUCN. We've had one book come out. We've had another book, an author who spent time with us. Her book came out, and she couldn't do a book launch, so we hosted her US book launch virtually via Zoom. And things like that. So we just covered all sorts of topics, going out once a week for about an hour, usually turns into an hour and a half because of the Q&As. And again, focusing on different aspects of elephants, elephant management, elephants in the wild, the various, we've invited people, researchers who've come to do experiments with us to talk about their research, what they're cutting edge learning about elephants. Yesterday we did one with Ajahn Millie, who was about drawing elephants and inspiration, and elephants as inspiration for art. So another thing, just focusing on what was unique about what we have that I guess other elephant camps don't have, and finding a way to get that in front of an audience. And it's worked really well. I think we're going to end up with a very, very nice archive of real, I mean, with the live streams, I reckon we've got something like 400 hours of elephants interaction and behaving. With these, we'll have, by the time we're finished, 20 or 30 different lectures, different things that people can look back on and have a historical document, not only of the lockdown, but of research and everything else going on in and around elephants, which will be unique. We wouldn't otherwise have had it. What else is unique about us? And again, I think this is going to be my main learning point, is find out what's unique about you, of your business. What would you like to showcase, and find a way of getting it in front of people. And for us, our team is we employ vets, we employ vet techs, we have scientists on site. Even, I mean, I get getting a bit not even desperate, try anything. My son is 8-year-old, speaks Thai and English, and has grown up around elephants, so that's unique. Let's put him there and have him explain elephants to school kids. So various things about that, and we've covered, as I say, healthcare, special elephant care, how we look after our geriatric elephants, how we do those sorts of things, elephant-friendly training techniques, and Mahout interviews in both Thai and English, so we reach the local audience as well. And as you see, they got some pretty good views, and people know more and more about what we do and keep us in mind for when the time that they can travel again. And ideally, also send us a donation. Everything free of charge at this stage. Next hint that I came up with when thinking about what you could do to try and help yourselves through this period, and I guess if we've got this far anyway, is to find and negotiate and take advantage of offers of support. And this is another thing you will all have as sustainable businesses who've been working hard in your communities with the inviting guests, inviting people from around the world. You'll have a legion of fans who love what you do. And you find out who your friends really are, because I contacted quite a few people, and not everybody wrote back and said yes, we'll help, but people like fellow EMC Jana Tors came, and they really worked with. We have put a fundraiser together to help fund the rangers in Cambodia. They doubled the effectiveness of that, running out there and just taking the ball and running with it. Some friends of ours who'd come and they'd sculpted one of our elephants. They said, okay, well, you're in trouble. We'll make a limited edition of 35 of these sculptures. We'll sell them. You help us sell them. We'll give 50% of the cost price or the sales price to you, and we've got 20 available if anybody's interested. They're beautiful. So things like that. And then the other offer of support was the Thai government, the TAT, the Tourism Authority of Thailand, who have pledged 9,500 baht for every elephant in Thailand for food. We had to jump through quite some hoops to get it and make sure all the paperwork was right and get powers of attorney and make sure all our farmers were registered and all sorts of other things. But again, I mean, these are crazy times. Don't be too proud to say, okay, well, we are at the moment relatively well off. I don't want the TAT to stop funding us, but if they're going to donate that money, that helps us do good elsewhere. So we worked on that, and we pushed hard to get all of the to take advantage of all of the offers out there, and again, find out who your friends are, because a lot of people didn't do very much. A lot of people really worked with us. And then survival, moving forward, we are reopened here at Anantara Golden Triangle, but of course that's not enough. We reopened basically what isn't good enough just to turn around and say, hey, we're open, just come again. If you're going to go out there and make a splash and make sure that people know what you're doing, focus again on what's unique about what you do. We have these jungle bubbles that we opened in December, where you can sleep in an elephant environment. The elephants are free roaming around you, and you're in a luxurious 360-degree perspex bubble. We focused on that, push on that, because many people have a hotel, many people have elephants. But what makes us special is this ability to be able to do that. So I guess those are my hints for the future. Basically, focus on what makes you unique. If your guests can't get to you, go out and we used Facebook because it was free and easy. It may not be the best platform in the world, but it's really worked for us. There's a lot more people know about us and our work than knew about it before. And as I say, we have these loyal guests who join us every day, twice a day. And really, they feel a part of this operation now, and we feel a part of it, and we feel a part of their operations. And it's really like a family, and that's got to stand us in good stead moving forward. Unfortunately, it's a bad time to plug the live streams because I'm going off on a mission tomorrow. So you can rejoin them on the 28th if you would like to come and see what we do. Market yourself to people who can visit. Again, the live streams primarily go out around the world, and we know that those folks can't visit, so we find ways to talk to the Thai people, to Thai folks, and expats, because they're the people who can currently get to us. currently looking at expanding our ability to speak within China, because I think the Chinese guests will be the next people who are allowed to move into the country, and make sure that we're talking to them and getting our message out to them. We have one we had before lockdown. We're picking his brains even more so now. One Chinese member of staff in the elephant camp. For me, I would say stay honest and stay flexible. Stay ourselves. It seems funny to say. I think our branding guys might, if they're listening, might be or the Anantara branding guys might be a little bit upset with that. But the way I think that it worked, the secret to our success is it was all personal. The way that we were talking with people, we were not towing a party line or trying to sell anybody anything. We were just there with our elephants, showing what we were passionate about. And I think, again, every EMC member, the reason you are a small sustainable business is you're passionate about something within your business. So do that. Don't get carried away trying to chase the big hotel brands and their messaging and talking too much about luxuries and all those other things. Just stay yourself and make it personal. Make people really want to come and visit you and see what it is and get passionate about what you're passionate about. And then the final one, because you want some talking points for the future, there's a long way to go in this, and I think nobody knows how long. There is some life in the system now, which we're very grateful for. As I say, the Anantara is reopened. The Four Seasons, our other hotel which sponsors the elephants, is reopening. But we've got a very, very long way to go before it gets to the point where we're able to keep all of our elephant projects, find that 11 to 15 million baht coming through our normal reams of funding. And there are many team members and everything else that need to be looked after first before I go and ask the big hotels for money for my ranges in Cambodia and the like. So stay flexible, look for opportunities. Don't stop now just because we're open again. Bad time to say this because I am actually off on to Khao Yai for a wild elephant meeting, but we're still going with the broadcast. We're still going to keep out there and talking to people. And I think that's my 10 minutes or so, and that was all I had. So thank you very much, and I don't normally do this, but if anybody would like to donate to us, there's our link, or join us from the 28th, or have a look at some of the things that we put, particularly the elephant professional lectures. I think are worth seeing. The live streams are great live, but the elephant professional lectures are some very good information on elephants and elephant management and elephant thoughts around the world. So do join us on Facebook. And for that, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Maybe if you can take your screen off, that would be great. Okay, great. Well, thanks for your presentation. And obviously, I mean, I've had the pleasure, I think 4, 5, 6 years ago to stay and experience the elephants that you take care of. So, I mean, it is a wonderful experience, and I hope I can come back in the not too distant future. Actually, I could visit, you know, from Bangkok. So it's actually, I don't really have an excuse not to come, I guess. But I do have just a quick question. I think what we're going to do is we'll just have a couple questions, and then we can have a bigger discussion later on after all speakers have finished. But as you know, I mean, I've been joining your live streaming, I think when you first started, I think end of March or so. And then there was a great way to start the day in the morning, to just kind of do emails and kind of watch the elephants with you. So I think this is really quite an innovative initiative that you have done, and quite successfully, and we'd love to add that also to our compendium of best practices. Maybe just quickly, I mean, so you kind of talked about that this obviously was a great way to get exposure and get people engaged, and also join the conversation and understand more about elephants, because I think it's also quite educational. I learned quite a lot about elephants just listening in. How could you maybe take this to another level to engage people more? You know, because I mean, once you've listened a couple of times, it is, you know, it's very similar. You know, are there ways to take it to another level, to engage people more, or even to get more donations from people as well?
Well, that's that therein lies the rub. What I think the strategy, and it hasn't necessarily worked out donations wise, as I say, as we got more and more popular and then we hit the Facebook sweet spot and the algorithm launched us quite remarkably around the world. The donations went down a little bit, but the strategy always was that I would be doing this as the baseline, and then we would have the experts joining us once a week. We would have the team do something specific about elephant management or interviewing mahouts or something that's interesting, more interesting than listening to me talk anyway. That I would be the baseline for, and I would keep doing this because I guess it's if you like, it's my style. I'm not a very good lecturer, as you've just noticed. I can talk about what's going on and fill space. And so that this would be the background, if you would like, and then we would have different events, which we did successfully through lockdown. And as we've reopened, it's become more difficult to do because my team, actually, the elephant camp team, have had to look after real in the flesh guests, which is a good thing. So that was the plan, just to be multifaceted, and that's what I was trying to get through in the talk that we had. It wasn't just the live streams; that was the thing that got the press early on. It was the thing that, as I say, people tune in for and stick around at MDS. People who are not elephant fanatics, after 2 or 3 days, it does get a bit the same. But then every 2 or 3 days was to have something else after the live stream, and maybe it could actually replace the live stream. I don't. Maybe we'll toy with that and have either Dr. Nisa or Kun Wu or Kun Tao, our vet nurse, or one of the experts giving a lecture that actually goes into more specific and different information about elephant management or elephant biology or elephant all the many facets of elephants and elephants and the world that surrounds them. So I think that would be the way to do it. And actually, yes, maybe one of these days I will relinquish my time slot and we'll have experts go in there and do the more focused talks, the more not scripted, but you know what I mean, not random, just following elephants around talks in that time slot and see how it goes. But yeah, it's very much a work in progress. But we had this discussion actually, and I will be reluctant, I think, to get rid or to change it altogether or change the format altogether, because we do have, whether or not they become guests, and it wasn't necessarily initially all about that anyway, we do have, as I say, a good group of people who join us every day for every live stream, sometimes twice a day. And they're not all my family, and my family do as well, and really do contribute, but also rely on it to the point where I'm feeling quite guilty. I'm going to have to go. This is work. I've got to go and go and look at my wild elephant projects and go to this meeting tomorrow. But I'm feeling quite guilty about leaving them for a week. I'm quite sad. I'll miss them as well. But there are people who wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning in the States, in the middle of America, to see the elephants. I don't think necessarily to hear me talk, but we have a conversation as well. So I think that working as a baseline, and then playing with the other formats with the teams and the lives that they do, and also the expert lectures, would be the way to go.
Oh, thank you. And obviously, I think that there's a lot of potential. I think with that format, and I think if you have 3 goals, obviously one is education, which I think is important. And I know we have a couple other businesses in the Experience Mekong collection that are dealing with wildlife and elephants as well. I think we have someone on the call with the captive elephant standards. Maybe they can share some insights later on in the discussion. Second, obviously, potentially getting donations or revenues that helps, kind of survive this pandemic. And third, inspire people so that they travel when they can later on. So I think congratulations on that. I think with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ton to introduce the next speaker, and then we can talk more about this in the discussion after the speakers.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jens. So we move forward to the next speaker, which is Chris. But before going to his talk, I'll show his short introduction, short video introduction for his business. Yeah.
专任晴天，山西古月，一心奉献。，Okay. So I'll hand over to Chris to talk about the situation for his business during the COVID-19. Please, Chris.
Thank you, Kuntan. I should start off by apologizing in advance because I don't have a PowerPoint, so everyone's just going to have to look at my face. Again, I'm very sorry. So what you just saw was from the Old Theater Inn. It's a theater temple that's unique to parts of northern Yunnan. It was built in 1782 and particularly for local opera. And when I found it in 2011, it was not being used. And the buildings around it in the courtyard were turned into a school. As many things in China during the Cultural Revolution, a lot of things, temples were turned into coal depots and schools and factories. And this place had really not entirely recovered from that. So it's in a very scenic village in Shaxi. It's in a high valley between Dali and Lijiang. And when I went there originally, this place was closed up and there wasn't really anything going on. And then over time, I discovered these musicians in the village. Their average age, you can see, is 75. They're fairly elderly. And I was just wondering why they weren't performing. And so I thought, well, what if we could give them an audience? And there's this beautiful opera stage, and we could convert these old schoolhouse rooms to guest rooms. So we got to work on that. It took some time, obviously, to get license permits, everything. And this actually came about because I was spending time in this valley rebuilding a temple, which has nothing to do with this temple. But it was more like Chinese say 还愿, which means you give back to the temple after your prayer is answered. So my wife, we had lost our first child and we were both in our 40s and we're trying to have another baby and it really wasn't working. So we took some time off and went to this place, Shaxi, and there happens to be a fertility temple there. So we prayed, and she's Thai and Buddhist, and we had the baby that next year. So part of my job was to go back there, and what we got out of it was we rebuilt the whole temple, and it was a lot more work than we anticipated. So the old theater is one of our properties. It's run entirely by local women from the village. As Kuntan mentioned, we have other properties in Guangxi. They're not temple related, but they are old buildings we have repurposed and created hospitality projects from them. So to describe what I do, I guess you could say I'm a destination developer with a focus on cultural conservation. It's been very challenging, obviously, being in China for this year, particularly because most of our guests are foreigners. And that might seem ironic, we're in the Chinese countryside, but here are all these foreigners. I guess John can relate, being way up in the Golden Triangle, and most of your guests are also foreigners. So we have always geared our services and our pricing and our facilities toward that. Then all of a sudden there are no foreigners. So this really made us rethink our entire model, our marketing and sales and services model. But, never let a good crisis go to waste. So we began really thinking about, who are our customers? Well, it's Chinese customers. And so it really was not something that we had ever tried to do before, which is really try to capture the Chinese traveler, because they tend not to be so interested in these things. I mean, it's really, when foreign guests come in, they're much more interested in this music. Chinese guests will say, well, I grew up with music like that in the village. I really don't need to hear it again. But this is music that is dying out. It's 1,000 years old, and these older players may be the last generation. So we've really set out trying to conserve that and try to teach that music and create classes and incentive for them to perform, recording their music so that there will be some kind of a legacy. So I guess when you have this downtime like we've had, and by the way, the virus, obviously the repercussions hit us earlier in China than the rest of the world, and they were very severe. There was no travel anywhere. People were confined to their homes. If you saw the news, it was tens of millions of people basically in their homes. So we had no market at all for a few months, but that gave us some time to think. So the first thing that I wanted to share was the importance of strategic thinking, which is really only possible when you have downtime. It's when you're not busy the Chinese character for busy is heart and then death. So it's like when you're busy, your heart dies. And you basically stop paying attention to the things you love. And so strategic thinking, this visioneering of who are our customers and what do we want our legacy to be, and what will this look like in 30 years? And what's this story that we're writing that inspires us and that we want to inspire others? And who's the hero of this story? And by the way, it's not you. So if you think you're the hero of your story, you should write another story, because it's really about the people who are day to day carrying out your mission. And I would say, given John's example, the heroes are the people that tune in every day and donate money and keep the enterprise going when they have really no incentive to do so. This is heroic. And not to steal John's thunder, but it's really because he obviously orchestrated all of this. And but the people who care about, who are inspired by John's story and what he's created, are the ones that really carry the day. So the strategic thinking is really something that we had time to engage in, and it helped us to understand the nature of our business a lot better. Because at the beginning of a business, you're just kind of crossing the river by feeling the stones. You're trying to find out, what is this enterprise? How does it work? And you're kind of learning as you go. At least we are, and I'm not a professional hotelier, nor an anthropologist, nor I kind of came into this business by accident. And well, it's been 20 years now, so I guess I'm committed. So for us, the second thing that we did was we had to look at our systems, our back end, our reservations, our payment systems, our digital marketing. Everything was really geared towards attracting foreign visitors, and it all had to go. So China is a unique environment in that Chinese systems are separate than the rest of the world. Their internet is different, their social media is different, their payment systems are different. So everything we had to do would now have to revolve around these other systems without throwing away the typical credit card payment and the typical sort of what our foreign guests expect. And we're not going to turn all the websites, magically into Chinese only. The idea was to accommodate the guests that we have traditionally had, with an emphasis on, or with a focus on, attracting Chinese guests. So that means using Weibo, it means using WeChat, it means, and definitely changing the way that we accept payment. So this is really about systems thinking, looking at the enterprise as a holistic thing, not just like, how do we attract guests, but really it's like, well, who are these guests, and where do we find them, and then how do we keep them? Obviously, retention is key. How do we get them to stay longer? Do we have things that are interesting for them to do? I know, for example, going back to John, we have elephant camps here in Chiang Mai, and you don't see a lot of local Thai people there. So, what are you going to do in the meantime? You can't throw away your past, but you have to, creatively engage, create a new future. So we had a lot of time to do this, and really about anticipating Chinese guests' needs and expectations, and then rebuilding the website, rebuilding all the, doing all the social media that was very different from what we did. And I took that upon myself because I couldn't afford to pay anyone to do it. And I'm really bad at it, by the way. So all the coding for the website, all the payment integration, all this stuff is really a big headache. And I spent the last 6 months doing it, and and discovered in the process how bad I am at it. And hopefully I'll never have to do it again. But it was also, it was very good education. And it also, I thought a lot differently about the business in the process. The last part is really about investment. particularly in China, you know, people are quite conservative. And they're very like cash oriented. It's like, I will do this for you as soon as I get paid. And so people are often not incentivized to really to do things without seeing some kind of near-term benefit. So because I own the business and I try to help my staff to understand my thinking about things, which is, I mean, for example, we go on international trips every year because I really want to open their minds about other hospitality endeavors that I am inspired by, and let them see how other small businesses, you know, in Asia operate. And it's a reward, but it's also for my benefit because I'm not going to be, you know, running these businesses forever. And they do 90% of the management anyway. So I'm trying to really enroll them and get them to take greater ownership and accountability. And so by investing in them and investing in the business while everyone else is operating out of a real scarcity mindset, everyone else is basically downsizing and we're building. You know, everyone else is about scarcity and we're about abundance. And so it's a different way of looking at it. It's really like in Chinese, they say that there's crisis and opportunity. They're very similar words, actually. And so it was really an opportunity to look at the situation and ask these strategic questions and make sure that everyone was in agreement that, yeah, this is what needs to be done. And just in terms of the sort of nuts and bolts of the business, how John mentioned he came up with a very innovative way to fund the business. We don't have any real attractions like elephants. We have water buffalo, but they're not very exciting. And so the most interesting thing, I guess, for us was, well, we want to give our guests and who have stayed with us before a reason to come back, but mostly we needed cash. So we said, hey, if you book, this was back in April when we reopened. If you book with us in 2020, if you prepay it, and we'll give you this bottle of wine, 25% discount. Those are all the nuts and bolts of business. But they're important nonetheless, because if you have no cash, you're dead. We were doing very well with this. That people really responded to it, and these were people that really may not have had travel plans in 2020. People actually wrote to us and said, "I'm really not sure if I'm going to go to China, but here I'm going to pay you, and then if I do come, that's great. If I don't come, I'll come next year." So. People have a lot of loyalty, as you saw with John's group. I mean, people really do care. If you give them something to be inspired about, and treat them not as tourists, but as temporary members of your family. And this is something we've always done, because I always like to be in a place where I'm treated as a member of the family. I never want to be a visitor or a tourist or whatever it is you call us. So that obviously it resonated with people, and so it really saved us during that time. And things were going great, getting the cash in. Massive flood in early June. I'm smiling now because it's easier than crying. But all of our hard work basically completely destroyed. And this is in Yangshuo. This is in Guangxi. We're on a major river there, and we were completely inundated. And so with the little money that we had made in April, we had to go back into debt to restore everything that was lost. A lot of things that had personal value to me, like antiques and things that we had bought. So this was it was very difficult, and we seem to have come out of it. And Shashi, the old theater, is also starting to come back. But it's almost like after a heavy frost, you're not sure if the plant's going to survive. You just kind of have to nurture it and you give it care. And then if it's going to come back, it will. And so I don't really feel like I have a lot to share in terms of like specific strategies about on the business side of things, how, you know, apart from the sort of prepayment and asking people to commit to that. We were very, very active with Instagram and Facebook and newsletters just to keep, you know, in basically top of mind with our guests, because we didn't want them to forget about us. And so this is where we are now. I feel like we're in a much better position than our competitors, obviously, because they have not taken this kind of initiative, and mostly because I feel like they, in this crisis, they really saw it as a threat and as something to be avoided, instead of embracing it and using it for a long-term positive benefit. So that's about what I have. Sorry, no PowerPointing.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris. So I think this was actually quite interesting, and I think especially for other small businesses, I saw Jens comment in the chat. I think a lot of small businesses going through similar scenarios. So I think it resonates, especially with other small businesses and entrepreneurs. I mean, as we've never met, but we've been to Shashi last year. We had our Mekong Tourism Forum in Dali and Chizhou. And we actually afterwards, we went to Lijiang and also stopped in Shashi. Just an incredible place. And I think we did see your property as well. But again, I think either you weren't there or we didn't call on you. I forgot, but I think it's truly a spectacular area. And Yunnan, I mean, I used to live in China for over 5 years. Wow. And I traveled all over China as when I was chair for PATA China. And Yunnan definitely is very close to my heart. Obviously, it's part of the Mekong region, but even besides that, the culture and the environment and everything that brought together, I think makes Yunnan very special. And Shashi stands out even within Yunnan. I have maybe just a very quick question before we move on. Obviously, I mean, Shashi is a beautiful place, but it's not an easy place to get to. And even though you have 1.4 billion potential customers, and as you said, obviously your market is more international. But again, you know, Shashi, it takes, I think, 3 to 4 hours to drive to get to. So it's not easy to access. But on the other hand, obviously people are being a little bit more afraid of crowds and so on. It does have its benefits as well for people to really get away, experience culture, and are not in such a crowded space, even though Shashi is a tourist place. Anything you learned, in particular, how your marketing has maybe shifted or changed based on that, and maybe some things. I mean, you mentioned WeChat, Weibo, and TikTok and all these platforms, social media that are very powerful. But maybe one thing that you've learned that really has changed the game, you know, from pre-COVID to now, and how you see it might even change even more when travel may start either regional or internationally.
Yeah, so as you said, it's about 2 hours drive from either Lijiang or Shashi or from Dali. So it's not too far. So first of all, this whole town was completely blocked off. I mean, because there's limited entrance. So basically this entire valley was closed. You couldn't come in or out unless you had a local residence permit. That, to me, changes the equation in that when it does open up again, like, this is a very special place that not everybody can go. You know, it's really a place for insiders. It's a place for people who know. It's also not your like typical TripAdvisor crowd. You know, it's like, you really have to know something about this place. And it's, as you said, it's like there's spiritual magic here. It's amazing. And so I feel like instead of saying like, you know, everybody welcome, I mean, this is what I see in COVID sort of advertising now. It's like, or post-COVID in places, it's like, the coast is clear, everybody can come now. And I'm like, no, please stay away. Okay, this is a special place, don't ruin it. So with like huge tour buses and this kind of thing, it doesn't work in that environment. It's not a destination for mass tourism like Dali or Lijiang. So I feel like there is a kind of exclusivity about this place, and it's a privilege to visit it. It's a very different way of looking at it. It's like dining at a Michelin restaurant or something. It's like you have to know, and you have to really appreciate it for what it is. And not everybody can go. So I started looking at it that way. It has a cachet.
No, thank you. It's definitely true. I mean, it's a little bit like this Bhutan aura, or at least the perception that Bhutan has created.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to thank you for being very engaged and involved in EMC, Experience Mekong Collection. And we do obviously want to reward people that are very active in giving them the chance of telling their story during our webinar. So again, thank you. Great presentation. I'll turn it over to Ton to introduce our next speaker. And then I think hopefully in the discussion, we'll have some more insights as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jens. Finally, we move to the last speaker, which is the Miss Thida Win from the Plan B Social Enterprise from Myanmar. But before moving to her talk, I'll share her short video to introduce her business.
Talk first and then do the video later.
So maybe I let Thida present first, and then I'll show the video later on. Yes, please, Thida.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I think firstly, thank you very much for the invitation to participate in this session. Actually, I want all of you to see the video first to get some concept about our operation, but it's okay. I have also the presentation, so that's fine. I will share the screen, and then I think it will not be overlap.
She can share the video. You can play the video.
Presentation, I will share it. It's okay? Hello? We are located in the Shan State. It's take 1 hour from Yangon with the flight, and then from around 45 minutes from Heho Airport to Pindaya. It's very close to the Pindaya Lake. You see the very small factory, and we have two core functions, which is the tourism, and another one is the value chain process. Here is a big history. We start from 2012 until now. 2012 until 2019 was the project period. Within the project period, we had a lot of lesson learned, and then we changed the strategy because the beekeeping is a very unique society, and almost around 800 beekeepers in Myanmar. With the government side, almost 1,000 people. So our project is we try to encourage the beekeeping to promote the Myanmar honey sector. Also, the apitourism is very unique in Myanmar. That's why from 2019 until now, we are stand as a independent sustainable. But this is a very difficult period because in the transition periods without funding, we need to try to be sustainable. But right now we face with an extended pandemic, so you can assume how we are struggle. These are our product from our beekeepers. We produce like a premium honey and for different channel, and also the bee wax. We try to sell the whole country. You can find 100 retail shop, and also in the souvenir shop like a airport as well. Because why we are doing this, our target is the world recognize as Myanmar is producing the premium honey. But so we are ongoing, and these are our quality control process. And then our certificate, and another program is the micro enterprise. We promote the vulnerable people from the village and lower education people. Yeah. And another thing is the apitourism. Apitourism is because Bindia is located between Kalor and Yangshui, and very attractive tourist attraction place. But right now, in Myanmar, not only for the foreigner, we intend as educational and awareness. That's why we start this museum. In the short video, you can see the group who visited to us, but in the slide I didn't describe. This is the group from ICRC. They come and visit to learn about our project and how they can adapt, how they can learn from us. And in the museum, what you can do is the honey tasting, participating the bee byproduct production, mean bee was production, and also because we have like 6 different honey. Well, all our beekeepers have to migrate depending on the flower blooming area. So we have like 6 different kinds of honey. So the visitor and the local visitor, they taste before, they don't have that kind of awareness. They just know there is only one type of honey. After our project, mostly people, they aware there's like different kinds of flower honey. And also the pollination awareness and education. This is just a short summaries of about our project, but according to the current situation, I will discuss continuously. I think that January and February, we have a lot of phone call from the local tour company, and then booking because they want to visit our site and they want to see our operation, and also they want to touch the bee, some of the area. But the tourism sector is totally got negative impact from COVID-19. It's very difficult for us because the first case was found in Myanmar. The first case was found on March 23rd. So the government started lockdown, and then we all cancel our booking, and April and May almost 0 sales, and production also the tourism. So this is a very difficult situation for us. And June we start slowly again because of COVID-19. I think the consumer behavior is also changed. Myanmar is a bit delayed in digitalization, but during the COVID-19 period, all the consumer wants to buy from online, and then so our tourism is totally stopped. So what, as a recovery, what we are focusing on production, but of course we cannot buy all the honey from our beekeepers. This is the very difficult for them, because April, May is the dead season for the beekeepers. They cannot migrate because no flower is blooming at that time. They need to feed the bees, but or the company cannot buy the honey. This is challenges for the honey industry, and so also we cannot export. That's why all the honey prices going down, and then all the company try to sell in the local market. All the competitor meets in the local market, but the honey is not a common food in Myanmar, just like for the medicinal. And so that's why for the future plan, where we are thinking that to produce like a value-added product regarding with the honey, and we develop the strategy regarding with the honey and beekeeping business, what the customer needs. Right now, local traveler, local people, they want to start traveler, and even yesterday I had a phone call from the local people, and they want to visit our center. So I got the idea, not for foreigner, but for the local people. We will develop a short course for the beekeeping, like a 5 hour, like a 3 hour. Within 3 hour, they can learn how the bee works, and then this is the small income for us from the tourism side. Until now, this is the current situation, and then we still hope to get more progress. And I just prepare for 10 minutes, and I like to get more questions from all of you. Ton, are you okay to open the video, or it's not? I will try to open.
Yes, we try a bit.
Let me check 1 minute.
She needs to. Can you unscrew? Can you unscreen your screen?
Sorry.
And share your screen,
Okay.
Tida?
Okay.
Let me see if I can do it. Second. Huh? What?
I tried to open the video, but I need to forward first. If you have a question, you can ask me meanwhile. Yeah. It's work.
Don't get any audio.
You see it?
See it, but no audio.
There is no audio. Is there audio?
There is an audio, but we can hear.
Yes, you get the point.
Okay. And I would like to add one more thing, that the second COVID-19 case was found from the foreigner friends, a group of friends, and then they visited to Pindaya. Luckily, they didn't visit to our museum. Otherwise, I cannot assume. Right now, I'm in the quarantine center. If they visit to us, I cannot assume what will happen. But luckily, they didn't reach to us. But from that time, the Binjia was locked down until now. Yes, that's why I just going on the production, and then we cannot start the tourism side.
Great. Thank you very much, Tida.
You're welcome.
And I think we have obviously some great experiences in the Experience Mekong collection in Myanmar, and also our former Minister of Hotels and Tourism of Myanmar, always a big supporter, and even today on the call as well. So I'm sure he's very happy to hear you present. Excellency, any comments? What we're seeing in Myanmar right now, especially with small businesses, and how they can survive? Excellency, you have to be unmuted first.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear?
Yes.
Yeah, there are a lot of small businesses around across the country, but the point is we need to get awareness of this product to be in the international or regional status. This is the very important thing. Like Tida explained to us, but what this is just started, and it is what I think it is just in the initial stage. And there are also some small businesses, SME businesses, especially in the region, like around Inle Lake, you know. So that's why if we can promote it, if we can help any assistance from the Mekong Tourism Coordinating Office or some other relevant organizations, who can do much better than this status, you know, and they all are very happy, and there will be so much multiplier effect in the region. This is what I'm thinking. So let us make research to see, you know, what the other SME businesses available in Myanmar. Like that. This is the first thing. Second thing is, you know, there are some entrepreneurs who are also interested in such kind of SME businesses, but they don't know how to start it. They don't know how to initiate it. They don't know how to get into the startup businesses. So now, Jens, you are doing these activities like that in the Mekong, you know, activities, you know, like Mekong Heroes, like this program also. So if these are coming up and if they are able to connect with this program, they are also very encouraging to do for next steps. So what I need is if we are able to do such kind of activities in our region, there are small businesses across the region, just like a CLMV countries. Maybe we call CLMTV or like that, including Thailand, or maybe GMS countries, member states like that. We all are developing nations. That's why what we need is to get some kind of movement towards the development of these businesses. Second thing, and another thing is we also need to get support from international organizations, international associations to make some methods, to do some methods like what John and my other friend, so Chris, they all are doing like that. So if they can assist, not only in the specific country, but they should also spread the words or their movements to other areas. It will be very, very beneficial for our member states like that. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Jan, and all the members.
Thank you, Excellency. And I think this is exactly what we're trying to do with the Experience Mekong collection. Number one, obviously, kind of build trust, amongst consumers, to really get awareness of these great small businesses that create a social impact. And then obviously, on the other hand, inspire other entrepreneurs either to kind of start businesses like that or transform their businesses to become more sustainable, more responsible, and more a social enterprise. So I think this. I mean, obviously the COVID-19 pandemic now, has even made this program more important, and almost created, more than just a marketing alliance, marketing collection, but now also I think an alliance of members that look to help each other, learn from each other. And I think this webinar is one way of doing that. And I think just today with the examples that we've heard just from 3 businesses, there are some great examples that other businesses can learn from and copy, not only in this region, but also all over the world. With that, I'd like to maybe open it up, for questions. Got 2 ways. Either you can type your question into the chat, and then we'll call on you. Number 2, if you have something right now, you can also kind of ask a question yourself. It would be good if you asked the question first in the chat so we can kind of have a little bit of order. So maybe before, we kind of call on the first one, maybe I'd like to go back to John and the elephants. We have, I'm not sure if she's still on the call, Ingrid from the captive elephant standards. Not sure if she's still on the call or not. But obviously, I think there is a lot of wildlife businesses out there that looking to kind of protect elephants and making sure that wildlife is protected. So maybe going back to John quickly, where do you see the opportunity as well? Because I mean, obviously, wildlife, not just elephants, is an asset. I mean, it does draw people into the Mekong region. It's one of the reasons why people want to visit, and protecting these animals is I think a high priority, for all of us in the region to kind of really make sure that the essence of tourism and the inspiration of the destination, is protected. And John, you've done it, for a long time. Where do you see the opportunities as well? What do we need to do, as a group or as a public-private sector organization working with our governments in the private sector? Where do we need to focus on now to protect and preserve and conserve wildlife in the Mekong region?
Well, I think elephants are a separate matter. Captive elephants, anyway, a separate matter from wildlife. But what the upside of COVID, I think now, if there is, it's a silver lining, and there are many black linings, but the silver lining is that are no longer financially worth 3 million baht. And as I think it was Chris who said, now is the time for strategic thinking, and we do have a breather where we can sit and have a look and maybe start to have, particularly referring captive elephants, to have some strategic thoughts, because every elephant now, and will be, I think, for at least 3 or 4 months, is a financial liability, and the fact that they have been a financial asset, and people have been spending vast amounts of money to buy and sell elephants for the last 4 or 5 years, has stopped any honest discussion about even their welfare. And so now I think, particularly in Thailand, it would be very good if we could start talking about the Draft Elephant Act and getting that passed, and having being able to have honest discussions about what constitutes welfare. How do we assure the welfare of the camp that you visit? And it's a pity Ingrid's not here, because she is one of the driving forces in, or at least one of the standards, literally one of the standards in helping ensure good welfare for the animals. And part of her standard is how to make sure that their conservation, there's a conservation base as well. So that's the silver lining, if there were. Now, for wildlife, it's a little bit more difficult, and I see definitely, and in Thai law, they're different as well. Wildlife, it's more problematic now. Because the threat has increased. It's more difficult to see the silver lining, I would say, in that not only has the ability to use tourism to protect wildlife, to pay for rangers, to give local communities an incentive to keep possibly, and elephants are the key thing, possibly destructive wildlife in, and see them as an asset rather than as a total negative against their way of life. Not only has that disappeared, a lot of people certainly in Thailand and Cambodia, where I know, and then East Africa also, having lost jobs in the city, are returning home to the villages, and of course cheap, and looking for, and having to live cheaply because there's no income anymore. And so we're seeing an upsurge in snaring and in people looking to the jungle for traditional ways of hunting to be able to try and feed themselves and their families. Quite what can be done about this, I don't know. At the moment, I'm talking to various people in the WWF. I know the EU are thinking about it, and some very large funding organizations from the European side are looking at ways to fund both rangers to ensure that the loss of tourism revenue that used to fund rangers is at least partially made up, but also to fund community work and make sure that there is sustainable community support, at least to be sustained through this crisis until people can get their jobs back and go back to the cities or stay at home, and but not have to rely on bushmeat and hunting to survive. So it's going to be tricky. Actually, part of the meeting, if you ask me on Tuesday, I might be able to give you a better answer, because part of the meeting organized by a wild elephant group in Thailand, Dr. Pichet, called Human Elephant Voices. Part of the reason I'm going to Khao Yai over this weekend is to have they've invited people from all over human elephant coexistence communities, as well as park rangers and everybody else, to a meeting in Khao Yai this weekend to discuss exactly that. And my part of it is to talk a bit about community tourism and how that might work when tourism picks up again, or how to harness domestic tourism, but in the case of Thailand, to actually make sure that when the tourists come to Khao Yai, they're protecting elephants and protecting the wildlife rather than taking from them. So, yes, unfortunately, captive elephants, I see quite clearly that we have an opportunity to make things better, to try and enforce standards, to for instance, get the draft elephant law passed, and then have it written in there that you have to have ingredients. To own an elephant camp and to run an elephant tourism organization, you have to pass some form of science-based welfare standard, and that could be Asian captive elephant standards. I think they're one of the best ones operating out there, or Travel Life, or, who are also well known to you, and also Global Spirit, or one of the others. So I can see very clearly that this could be an opportunity to help us get realistic discussions. I mean, starting with, do we really need 3,800 elephants in captivity in Thailand? I would argue no. And how to move forward to hopefully agree on a lower number and work towards that in a way that we can keep all the elephants comfortable. So I can see that quite clearly. And it would start with talking to the Thai government, at least, to start passing the draft Elephant Act. In Myanmar, I was discussing with some Myanmar elephant people yesterday, and to try and get similar regulations in place in Myanmar, so that when tourism does open up again, they don't follow the worst practices in Thailand. If they're going to follow Thai practices, they follow the best practices. So that would be, there are opportunities here. For wildlife, I think it's much more difficult to see for wildlife and conservation and habitat conservation. It's much more difficult to see the silver lining quite yet, but there are good people working on it.
Great. No, thank you. I think Ton has another question.
Yes. Actually, hello, can you hear me?
There's an echo.
So, hello.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, my question would especially address to Chris and Tida because I heard that you both talk about the engagement of local people and and at the moment, I mean, this is quite the challenging time for local people to survive, to sort of run their own, I mean, like daily life stuff. So I would like to ask that, do you have any kind of specific initiatives or practices that you keep local people engaged to your businesses, or you keep them sort of like work with you in this struggling time? Because this is from my experience that I've talked to many EMC members or small responsible businesses in the region, and most common problem is sort of like people just left the jobs, or they just quit, or they just don't know what to do, stuff like that, and they want the direction from the businesses. So that's my point. Could you please sort of expand a little bit, Chris or Tida? Thanks.
Tita, would you like to answer first?
You first, okay, I will give a favor to you.
Okay. So we have a purchasing lady, for example, at Mountain Retreat in Yangshuo. This is in Guangxi. And she's been with us since the beginning, like 20 years. And we ask her to buy, the best produce that we can. And part of this is, again, because we have international guests, most of them. And so, for example, we try to get like better looking fruit or better looking vegetables. It's like if you're serving a salad, then you want nice looking, produce. We've changed that now so that we are buying directly from the staff and their farms. And these are, I mean, the good part about it is it's organic. They don't use any chemicals on the food that they eat themselves. But the downside is that not everything is in season and not everything looks great. If you're not using pesticides, you get wormy apples, you get little critters eating your lettuce. And we may continue to do this as long as we can. I mean, it certainly helps the local families, our staff. It sort of expands our circle of empathy and keeps people engaged. It's a win-win, and I think our international guests would love to support that as well, and they would love to know that this is produce that's coming from our staff's fields. We've already been doing that in Shashi because all of our staff farm there anyway. And we're not so busy there, so they have time to in their off. Whoop, sorry about that. In their off time, they will. Sorry, let me get the picture back here. They will go and help get. If we need to cook something that night, we don't have it. I've seen them go rushing off and bring back something under their arm from their field. But in Yangshuo, that's not something that we've done regularly, although we always try to buy locally as much as we can. So we'll see how that goes. It may turn out to be a plus. It's like, okay, you've got heirloom tomatoes here that look strange, and but it's all from our local staff's family farm.
Thank you, Chris. And how about you, Tida? Any thoughts on or sort of like practices with your local staff and employees?
Yeah, that's a great question. Questions for me because as a recovery until now, I cannot call back some of the stuff because I would like to continue my conversation. The second case was found in Pintaya, so at the time, all our staff cannot convince and they want to go back immediately. They don't arrange anything, and it's very difficult for us because me too. And then mostly staff go back their home, and then till now, I work with the local staff for the bottling, and then luckily because I work with 100 beekeepers, so every year we store like 10 tons of honey. So this time even we don't buy from the uh, we don't deal with our beekeepers, but it's don't need to worry for the supply. But for the staff, even we cannot call back them, but like a compensate, we subsidy some kind of the cash, but not like wages and salary. Also the regarding what with the beeswax, and then another supplier we just talk with from the online, and then like employee. Right now I just work with 5 employee, and then all the beekeepers and the fish staff in the field. And then during the project period, we use the ComCare application. This is to collect all the data and tracking system. That's why we already used to with the adaptation with the work from home system. So until now, we work remotely, and then this is the current situation. And is that okay, Tom? That you get the answer?
Yes, of course. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's I mean, like my question is to sort of ask about what's your specific practices, which is good. I mean, to share with our members, and we sort of like learn that we have various experiences and practices to sort of cope with the pandemic, as well as to keep people engaged in the difficult time as well.
Yeah. Yes. As I mentioned, because we have
Okay.
two core functions. So, sorry, can I continue?
Go ahead.
Yeah. We have two core functions, which is the value chain process, and then the other one is the tourism. So tourism is totally stopped, and we focus on the value chain and production and marketing. Yeah. To survive of the business.
Okay, very good. I think we're coming almost to the end of the call, but I wanted to kind of see if there's any other questions or comments or thoughts from any participant.
Yes, if I may, and it may be useful for everybody, because one of my recommendations was how best for those of us who are not living in China to reach a Chinese audience and to talk to potential Chinese guests, or in my case, potential Chinese elephant lovers as well as guests. And so, since Chris has gone through that process, I wonder if you would mind sharing which would be the most effective social media tool that you would use, given that we very, very luckily had, well, luckily he's a great guy, so we do have a Chinese speaking member of staff who's also very tech savvy, and would like to discuss and move the live streams or something similar to a Chinese audience, and in order to spark imagination over there. Not least, I must admit, because we consider that probably when skies open again for Thailand, possibly Chinese guests will be one of the first to return. But also because we like what we do, and we'd like to reach a wider audience. So, Chris, which social media platform for those of us outside China would you suggest we engage with?
Chris, you need to unmute yourself first.
Sorry, is that okay? Okay, so for a mass audience, Weibo is like Twitter in China, and you kind of have to first identify some influencers or some what they call KOLs, key opinion leaders, and I'm sure it would not be difficult to identify, for example, some celebrities in China, for example, a famous actress, someone like this, who also has an interest in elephant conservation, and then really try to bring the message to her and let her broadcast to her followers and her audience. Otherwise, you're limited to WeChat groups, which are sometimes they can be helpful, but they don't quite have the reach of Weibo. What we were very lucky that we got a group called Yitiao, which is like a very big Chinese media group, to come to Shaxi. We didn't pay for it. They just came, and they're just interested in stories, you know. And so I don't know how feasible it is for them to travel now, like for Chinese to come here now, but pretty soon. If I can reach out to them personally, because I had a very good experience with them, and millions of people saw this video. So let me work on that, and maybe you can give me your contact after the call, and then I'll reach out to them and see what that's like. I mean, it could be a while, but it's also going to take you a while to identify sort of the right, influencer for what you want to do.
Maybe I'll add to that. I totally agree with Chris. I think these platforms can be very powerful, and I think also in your case, John, because you're having a cause, in this case elephants. I think this is something that KOLs or celebrities like to go behind it, because I mean it makes them look good. It kind of stimulates their following. Beyond that, I think there is obviously Douyin or TikTok. Which is obviously has been in the media and getting a lot of traction and can be very successful. So I guess still with any social media platform you need to build a following. Having said all that, live streaming actually is the new phenomenon in China, and you're doing it already. But there are quite a few celebrities or even CEOs that have used live streaming to actually sell products. The chairman of C-Trip, for example, sold millions of dollars of room nights just by live streaming, and it just kind of like started as a little bit of a kind of thing and gotten actually quite big. There's another CEO of another Chinese company that sold, I don't know, millions of fridges and so on and consumer products. We're actually going to have a webinar on Chinese consumer marketing in the next few weeks. And then the other thing I can already mention, we're working with a Dragon Trail Interactive on a virtual travel trade platform. So that basically allows any business to, like a trade show, get a space, and then reach out or connect to the travel trade and the media in China. So that includes KOLs, consumer media, travel trade media, and also then travel agents, MICE, and so on. So I mean, and what's unique about the platform is that all these individuals, they get connected to their WeChat account. So today they might be at one agency, tomorrow at another one, but because of these unique WeChat accounts, they stay on these platforms. So this is something that we're looking to announce fairly soon, and then we're going to offer a almost like a pre-sale area. So this is not going to be free, but I mean it's very cost effective. So then any business in the Mekong region, can have their own travel trade space in it, and then we may kind of do events around it. So that's where basically then you can reach out to these individuals, and connect with them. And it's like any travel trade platform, but it's virtual, but we focus it on the Mekong region. And we're gonna obviously allow EMC members as well to get a space there as well, You know, so I think that will also be very interesting, because I think Chinese travelers, they are looking for these small businesses as well and for these experiences, and sometimes it's very hard for them to find them. You know, so that's just very quickly maybe from me. So we are working on some initiatives as it relates to the Chinese market.
Thanks both. I will be in touch, and I hope other people will be in touch too.
Great. Do we have any other questions? I think we have around 5 minutes left. Any other thoughts or comments, or maybe even feedback on how we can make these webinars better? What you like, what you didn't like. If anyone has a comment, feedback, thought, now is the time. We got something in the chat. Do we have someone in the chat here? If we don't have any more comments, then I'd like to thank everyone for joining this webinar. We'll do another one in the next coming weeks. I also put a couple links into the chat for our first destination Mekong Summit, which is on August 25th. I think it'll be a very interesting, and it's for free registration. Just follow the link. And then the second link is for our 2020 Experience Mekong showcases. So the voting is still open until August 15th. So please either vote if you haven't, or also promote it and spread the word. And it's not just about getting votes, but I think also it shows exposure, you know, for these small businesses, and to build really the brand of the Experience Mekong collection, which benefits all members in the collection as well. You know, so that's, I think, it for me. Ton, any other thoughts? No. Okay, with that, I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Thank you, John. Thank you, Tita. Thank you, Chris. And at some point, maybe hopefully we can have these Experience Mekong collection meetings also physically, face to face. There was something when we did a survey, we asked, many people said, yes, we want to actually connect with these like-minded entrepreneurs and businesses to learn and to network and to see how we can work closer together to really promote the region and, you know, social enterprises in the region. So I think we're on the right path here, but it all comes down to your engagement and to your, you know, contribution. So today, I think that was a good step, and we'll do more. And I hope it's going to be valuable, especially during this time, during COVID-19, to not only survive, but then also to accelerate the recovery process going forward. So with that, thank you very much, and talk to you soon, and be active also in our online community. I'm sure everyone is already connected, but if you're not, reach out to Ton so you can get registered and be part of the conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom.